The marble bathroom gleamed under soft lighting, every surface polished to perfection. But the hand holding the pregnancy test trembled violently, two pink lines stark against the white plastic. Then came the scream, a sound of rage so primal it seemed to shake the walls of the Palm Jumeirah penthouse. What happens when a forbidden love between an Indian call center worker and a Dubai billionaire crosses a line that cannot be uncrossed? On March 15, 2023, the body of 26-year-old ANANYA Kapoor was found in the Arabian Gulf, weighted down with construction chains. The discovery sent shockwaves through Dubai's Indian expatriate community. Security footage would later reveal three figures disposing of something heavy from a luxury yacht at 3 a.m. Police initially treated it as another tragic case of a missing migrant worker, until evidence emerged that connected her death to one of Dubai's wealthy elite. But the real story began 18 months earlier, in the fluorescent-lit cubicles of a Dubai call center, where a young woman's dreams of escaping poverty would lead her into the arms of a man who could never truly be hers. A man whose wife watched from the shadows. A man who would ultimately decide that Ananya's love and her unborn child were liabilities he couldn't afford. This case exposes the dangerous intersection of class, culture, and obsession in modern Dubai. If stories like this matter to you, please subscribe and hit the notification bell, because Ananya's story deserves to be heard. Now, let me take you back to where it all began. To understand how a bright young woman with dreams of supporting her family ended up at the bottom of the sea, we need to understand who Ananya Kapoor was, the man who would become her obsession, and the wife who had been watching all along. Ananya Kapoor was 24 years old when she arrived in Dubai in January 2021. She was the youngest of four siblings and the only daughter in a working-class family from Pune, Maharashtra. Her father, Rajesh Kapoor, had been a factory supervisor until a workplace accident left him with a severe back injury and chronic pain. Unable to work, he relied on a modest disability pension. Ananya's mother, Mira, worked as a domestic helper for 3 different households, leaving before dawn and returning after dark, her hands perpetually chapped from cleaning solutions. Ananya had 2 older brothers who were already married with children of their own, contributing what little they could to the family. But it was her 3rd brother, Arjun, who represented the family's greatest hope. At 22, Arjun had earned admission to medical school, a remarkable achievement that came with crushing tuition fees the family could barely afford. Every rupee mattered. Every sacrifice counted. Ananya had been 2 years into a Bachelor of Education degree, training to become a teacher. She loved children, loved the idea of shaping young minds. But when Arjun's acceptance letter arrived, she made a decision that would change the trajectory of her life. She withdrew from university and applied for call center positions in Dubai, where the salary, even at entry level, was more than triple what she could earn in India. In January 2021, she boarded a flight to Dubai on an employment visa, carrying a single suitcase and a heart full of hope. She moved into a cramped 2-bedroom apartment in International City, sharing the space with 5 other Indian women who worked various service jobs. They slept on mattresses on the floor, rotating access to the single bathroom, cooking communal meals to save money. It wasn't glamorous, but Ananya didn't complain. She worked night shifts at Global Connect Solutions, a customer service outsourcing company in Business Bay that handled calls for luxury brands serving American clients. Her shift ran from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. to accommodate the time difference. The pay was 4,500 dirhams per month, approximately $1,225. Out of that, Ananya sent 3,000 dirhams home every month. Her father received the surgery he needed for his back. Arjun's tuition was paid on time. Her mother finally bought a new sari after years of wearing faded, torn ones. Every Sunday morning after her Saturday night shift ended, Ananya would video call home. She always smiled, always said she was eating well, always claimed she wasn't too tired. Her mother would lean close to the phone screen, worried eyes searching her daughter's face. "You're losing weight, Beta," she'd say. "Are you sleeping enough?" Ananya would laugh it off, change the subject, ask about Arjun's studies or her father's pain levels. At her desk in the call center, Ananya kept a small photo of her family and prayer beads her grandmother had given her before passing away. Her colleagues described her as sweet, soft-spoken, and endlessly patient even with the most difficult customers. She never went out with coworkers after shifts, never splurged on the shopping trips other young women enjoyed. Every dirham saved was a dirham sent home. Dubai itself was a study in contrasts. Glittering skyscrapers towered over labor camps where construction workers lived in shipping containers. Luxury cars roared past buses packed with domestic workers heading to their service jobs. For the 3.5 million Indian expatriates in the UAE, many working in service sectors, life existed in the shadows of unimaginable wealth. Ananya understood her place in this ecosystem. She was invisible labor, part of the machinery that kept Dubai's luxury functioning. Until Sheikh Faisal bin Omar noticed her. Sheikh Faisal bin Omar Al Rashid was 42 years old, a member of a minor branch of Dubai's ruling family. While not prominent in political circles, his family's real estate empire had made him extraordinarily wealthy. His company, Al Rashid Properties and Development, owned shopping centers, office towers, and residential complexes across the Emirates. Conservative estimates placed his personal net worth at $800 million. Faisal maintained a carefully curated public image. He sponsored cultural events, donated generously to charitable causes, and was often photographed at galas and museum openings. Those who knew him professionally described him as charming, modern in his thinking, and generous to his employees. He owned a collection of luxury cars, a private jet, and several yachts. His primary residence was a 20,000-square-foot penthouse on Palm Jumeirah with panoramic views of the Arabian Gulf. But Faisal's private life was more complicated than his public persona suggested. He had a reputation, kept quiet within certain circles, for affairs with expatriate women, always discreet, always brief, always with women who understood the rules, no attachments, no expectations, no scandals. Faisal had been married to Sheikha Nadia bint Khald since 2005, a union arranged by both families when he was 25 and she was 20. Nadia came from an equally prominent Emirati family, and their marriage had been as much about consolidating social standing as about love. They had 3 children, 2 sons, 16 and 14, and an 11-year-old daughter. Those close to the couple understood that their marriage was one of convenience and obligation rather than passion. They maintained separate wings of the penthouse. Nadia devoted herself to charity work, social obligations, and raising their children. Faisal focused on his business and his leisure pursuits. They appeared together at important events, playing their roles with practiced grace. Nadia was intelligent. She held an economics degree from the London School of Economics and perceptive. She was aware of her husband's affairs, though she rarely confronted him directly. She had calculated long ago that maintaining her position, protecting her children's futures, and preserving the family's reputation mattered more than enforcing marital fidelity. There was an unspoken rule. Faisal could have his indiscretions as long as they remained invisible and never threatened the family's standing. But Nadia was also fiercely protective. When that invisible line was crossed, when discretion gave way to recklessness, she would act. And when she acted, she was ruthless. In July 2021, Sheikh Faisal called the customer service line for his property management account. He had a complaint about billing discrepancies on one of his commercial properties. The call was escalated to Ananya, who handled complex issues during the night shift. She listened carefully, asked clarifying questions, and resolved his complaint within 20 minutes. Her voice was soft but professional, her English impeccable. Faisal was impressed. Before ending the call, he asked to speak to her supervisor, not to complain, but to commend her service. Then he did something unusual. He requested her direct extension for future inquiries. Over the next month, Faisal called several more times. Always with legitimate questions at first, property accounts, billing cycles, service requests, but gradually the calls became more personal. "Where in India are you from?" he asked once. Another time, "How are you finding Dubai? The heat must be difficult." Then, "Your English is excellent. You must have studied at a good school." Ananya answered politely but cautiously. She knew from his account details that he was important, very important. She could tell from the way her supervisor's demeanor changed when Faisal's name appeared on the caller ID. But she was also acutely aware that he was a married man, a wealthy man, someone far beyond her world. Then came the flowers. A massive bouquet of roses and lilies arrived at the Global Connect Solutions office one afternoon with a card. "Thank you for your excellent service." F.A., the entire floor erupted in whispers. Ananya's colleagues teased her mercilessly about her secret admirer. 2 weeks later, Faisal called again. This time, his request was direct. "I'd like to invite you to lunch. I'm interested in discussing ways to improve customer service protocols for my properties. I value your insights. I'll compensate you for your time, say 2,000 dirhams for a business lunch." Ananya's heart raced. 2,000 dirhams was nearly half her monthly rent. It was groceries for her family for a month. But she hesitated. That evening, she confided in her roommate Priya, who worked as a salon assistant. Priya's response was immediate and firm. "Don't do it. Rich Arab men and poor Indian girls, this never ends well. He's married. He's powerful. You're vulnerable. Nothing good comes from this." Ananya knew Priya was right. But when she lay on her mattress that night, staring at the water-stained ceiling, she thought about her father's medical bills, about Arjun's tuition, about her mother's worn hands. "It's just business," she told herself. "One lunch, that's all." She texted back, "Thank you for the kind offer. I would be happy to meet." Ananya was about to make a choice that would change everything. Before we continue with what happened at that lunch, I want to remind you that this channel covers stories that often go untold, stories of people caught between desperation and desire. If you believe these voices deserve to be heard, please like this video and share it. It helps more than you know. Now, let's talk about the lunch that changed Ananya's life. September 2021 arrived with typical Dubai heat, the air shimmering above the highways. On a Thursday afternoon, Friday being the Muslim holy day, a black Mercedes S-Class pulled up outside Global Connect Solutions. The driver, wearing a crisp white Kanjura, called Ananya's number and informed her that he'd been sent to collect her. Ananya wore her best outfit, a simple navy blue kurta with matching leggings, modest and professional. The air conditioning in the car felt like a luxury after the sweltering walk from her apartment building. She was driven to the Burj Al Arab, the iconic sail-shaped tower that stood as a monument to Dubai's excess. Inside, she was escorted to a private dining room where Sheikh Faisal waited. He was handsome in person, with close-cropped dark hair streaked with silver, an expertly trimmed beard, and warm brown eyes. He wore a perfectly tailored white Kanjura and exuded the effortless confidence that came with generational wealth. "Ananya," he said, standing to greet her with a respectful nod, no handshake, observing conservative propriety. "Thank you for coming. Please sit." The lunch lasted 2 hours. Faisal asked about her life, her family, her father's accident, Arjun's medical studies, her own abandoned education degree. He listened intently, asked thoughtful follow-up questions, and shared some details about his own business challenges. He was charming without being predatory, interested without being invasive. Ananya found herself relaxing, speaking more freely than she'd intended. When the meal ended, Faisal handed her an envelope. "For your time and your insights," he said. Later, alone in the Mercedes on the ride back, Ananya opened it. Inside was 5,000 dirhams, not the 2,000 he'd promised, but more than her entire monthly salary. Her phone buzzed, a message from Faisal. "I enjoyed our conversation very much. I'd like to see you again. Would next week work?" Ananya stared at the cash in her hands, at the message on her screen. She knew she should stop here. She knew what Priya would say, but the money could do so much. She typed back, "Yes, next week works." Over the following 3 months, Ananya saw Faisal twice weekly. He took her to exclusive restaurants, always private dining rooms where they wouldn't be seen. He asked about her family, remembered details from previous conversations, showed genuine interest in her thoughts. He gave her gifts, a new smartphone so we can communicate more easily, designer clothes appropriate for our dinners, expensive perfume. In October, he made his arrangement explicit. I'd like you to be available when I need to talk. I value your company, your intelligence. I'll provide you with 8,000 dirhams per month, just for being there. 8,000 dirhams, nearly double her salary. Ananya could send so much more home. We're just talking, she told herself. It's companionship, nothing more. But Faisal was patient, strategic. He began sharing his problems, his frustrations with business competitors, his loneliness in a loveless marriage, his feeling that his wife didn't understand him. The classic predator pattern, positioning himself as the victim, someone who needed her understanding and comfort. Ananya, young and inexperienced with men, began to feel special, important, valued in a way she'd never been before. And despite herself, despite every warning voice in her head, she began to develop feelings for him. In December, after a dinner where they'd laughed together over shared stories, Faisal kissed her. They were in his private majlis, an elegantly appointed room in one of his properties. The kiss was gentle, tentative, and Ananya, her heart pounding, kissed him back. That night she called her mother and cried, unable to explain why. Mira's voice, worried and confused across the phone line, asked, "Beta, what's wrong? Are you safe? You sound so different." "I'm fine, Mama," Ananya whispered. "Just tired, I'm fine." But she wasn't fine. She was falling in love with a man who could never be hers. In January 2022, Faisal purchased an apartment in Dubai Marina specifically for their meetings. It was fully furnished with modern furniture. The kitchen always stocked with Ananya's favorite foods, the bathroom filled with expensive toiletries. A security guard at the building was paid extra to be discreet about Faisal's comings and goings. The affair became physical. Ananya told herself she loved him, that what they had was real. Faisal visited 3 to 4 times a week, always in the evening after having dinner with his family. He would arrive smelling faintly of his children's shampoo, and Ananya would pretend not to notice. "You're different from anyone I've ever known," he told her one night, holding her close. "You're special." He never promised to leave his wife. He never spoke explicitly about a future together, but he implied enough, if circumstances were different. In another life, to keep Ananya hoping. In March, Ananya quit her call center job. Faisal was providing more than enough income, and he preferred her to be available whenever he needed her. She told her family she'd gotten a promotion and now worked as a private consultant for an important client. Technically true. The money she sent home increased to 10,000 dirhams per month. Her father got his surgery. Arjan's tuition was paid in full for the year. Her mother bought new clothes for the first time in years. Their joy made Ananya's guilt unbearable, but the lie had grown too big to confess. She moved out of her shared apartment in International City to live full-time in the Marina apartment. She lost touch with Priya and her other roommates, unable to explain her sudden change in circumstances. The secret consumed her, isolated her from the Indian expatriate community that had been her support system. Ananya decorated the apartment like a home. She hung photos of her family, cooked elaborate Indian meals for Faisal, bought matching dish sets and decorative pillows. She was playing house, pretending they were a real couple. Faisal indulged her, enjoying the domestic comfort she provided along with the emotional support. He confided in her about business stresses, family frustrations, political concerns. She listened, offered thoughtful advice, made him feel understood. In these moments, she believed the relationship was genuine, that she provided something his wife couldn't. But cracks began to appear. Faisal would miss scheduled visits without warning, citing family obligations. He refused to take photos together, wouldn't let her post anything on social media that might hint at his existence. When she asked tentatively about the future, his responses were vague. "These things are complicated, Habibi. We must be patient. Trust me." Ananya turned 25 in May. In her community, she was considered late for marriage. Friends from India messaged asking if she'd met anyone, if her family was arranging introductions. She had no answers. Her life was in suspended animation, revolving entirely around a man who visited her in secret and left before dawn. By June, a terrible awareness was settling in. This has no future. He will never leave his wife. I am wasting my life. But she loved him, or believed she did, and she couldn't imagine walking away. What Ananya didn't know was that she'd been watched since April. Sheikha Nadia bint Khald had lived with her husband's infidelities for years. She had trained herself not to react, not to care. But in early 2022, she noticed changes. Faisal was staying out later, seemed distracted during family dinners, was unusually generous with gifts, likely, she assumed, to assuage guilt over his latest affair. Nadia might have ignored it as she'd ignored previous dalliances. But one evening, while searching for her daughter's iPad, she'd accidentally picked up Faisal's tablet instead. A message notification appeared on the screen. "Can't wait to see you tonight. I made your favorite biryani." The domesticity of it, the cooking, the waiting, the girlfriend behavior, set off alarms. This wasn't a transactional arrangement with a sex worker or a brief fling with a flight attendant passing through Dubai. This was something ongoing, something that suggested emotional attachment. Nadia hired a private investigator. Within 2 weeks, she had a comprehensive file. Photos of Faisal entering the Marina apartment repeatedly, details about the apartment's purchase and furnishing costs, and most importantly, identification of the woman. Ananya Kapoor, 25 years old, Indian national, former call center employee, current visa sponsored by Al Rashid Properties under the designation private consultant. Bank records showed monthly transfers of 8,000 dirhams. Nadia studied the photos. Ananya was pretty in a girl next door way with large, dark eyes and long hair she wore in a simple braid. She looked young, innocent, naive. Nadia felt something like pity quickly suppressed. The girl was a threat or could become one. But Nadia was strategic. She didn't confront Faisal. She didn't make demands. Instead, she instructed the investigator to continue surveillance and document everything: dates, times, financial transactions. She accumulated evidence, building a file for leverage when not if it became necessary. In her calculus, humiliation was temporary. Power was eternal. She would wait for the right moment. In July 2022, Ananya missed her period. At first, she dismissed it as stress. She'd been feeling nauseated lately, exhausted in a way that sleep didn't fix. When she missed her second period in August, her roommate's old warning echoed in her mind. On August 15th, hands shaking, Ananya took a pregnancy test in the Marina apartment bathroom. She sat on the cool tile floor, watching the test develop. 2 pink lines appeared, stark and undeniable. Pregnant. Emotions crashed over her in waves: terror, joy, confusion, hope. She pressed her hand to her flat stomach, imagining a life growing inside her. Faisal's child, their child. "He'll help me," she whispered to her reflection in the mirror. "He loves me. This changes everything." For 3 days, she kept the secret, planning how to tell him. She wanted it to be special, romantic. On August 18th, she cooked his favorite dishes, lit candles, wore the emerald green silk dress he'd bought her. When Faisal arrived that evening, she could barely contain her nervous energy. But he was distracted, stressed. A business deal had fallen through, and he was on his phone throughout dinner, typing angry messages. Ananya waited for a break in his preoccupation. Finally, as he set his phone down to take a bite of food, she said softly, "Faisal, I need to tell you something important." He looked up, barely focusing. "What is it?" She took a deep breath. "I'm pregnant, the baby is yours." The silence that followed felt like falling. Faisal's face went completely blank, his fork frozen halfway to his mouth. Then, carefully, deliberately, he set it down. "Are you certain?" His voice was cold, controlled. "Yes, I took 3 tests. I'm about 8 weeks along." "Have you told anyone?" "No, of course not. You're the first." "Good." He stood abruptly, pacing to the window. "We need to handle this discreetly." "Handle this, not our baby or our child." This like a problem, a malfunction. Ananya's stomach dropped. What do you mean handle this? Faisal turned, and the warmth she'd grown accustomed to was gone, replaced by cold calculation. There's a doctor, Dr. Hassan, very discreet, very professional. He has a private clinic. You can have a procedure, no records, completely safe. You'll be recovered in 2 days. A procedure, her voice was hollow. You mean an abortion? Yes, I'll give you 100,000 dirhams for the procedure and for your trouble. For your trouble, as if she were a merchant whose shipment had been delayed. This is our baby, Ananya said, her voice rising. Yours and mine, I thought you cared about me. I do care, that's why I'm helping you fix this problem. Problem, tears spilled down her cheeks. Is that what I am to you, a problem? Faisal's expression hardened. Don't be naive, Ananya, you knew what this was. I have a wife, children, responsibilities. This, he gestured vaguely at her stomach, cannot happen. You said I was special, that you loved me. He ran his hand over his face, suddenly looking tired. I never said I loved you. I said I cared for you. There's a difference. I've been generous, haven't I? The apartment, the money, the gifts. I've treated you well. Now I'm offering you a way out of this that protects us both. What if I don't want a way out? Her voice was barely a whisper. What if I want to keep the baby? The shift in his demeanor was instant and terrifying. That would be very unwise, Ananya, very unwise. Are you threatening me? I'm advising you. As someone who cares about your well-being, think carefully about what keeping this baby would mean. Where would you go? Back to India, pregnant and unmarried? What would you tell your family, your mother, your brothers? How would they react to their daughter being a single mother to a mixed-race child? Each word was a calculated strike. He knew exactly where she was vulnerable. You would be alone, Faisal continued. Shamed, unable to work, unable to support yourself, unable to send money home. Your father needs his medications. Your brother needs his tuition. Your mother is getting older. They depend on you. Ananya was sobbing now, her whole body shaking. I'm offering you 200,000 dirhams, Faisal said. The procedure, the apartment for another year, and a plane ticket home whenever you want it. You can tell your family you've saved well, that you want to come home. You can restart your life. This is generous, Ananya, more generous than you deserve for being this careless. The cruelty of that last sentence, as if the pregnancy were her fault alone, broke something in her. Get out, she whispered. Ananya. Get out. He left, and over the following days, the pressure campaign continued via text and phone. Faisal didn't visit again, but his messages were relentless. Be reasonable. This is best for both of us. Think about your family. Don't throw away everything over a mistake. Ananya stood firm. She couldn't have the abortion. It went against everything she believed, everything she'd been raised to value. This was a life, her baby's life, their baby's life. On August 30th, Faisal's final call came. I need you to think very carefully about your choices, Ananya. I've been generous. I've been patient. Don't make me be otherwise. You have no idea what I'm capable of when someone threatens my family. The line went dead. Ananya sat in the apartment, no longer a home but a cage, and realized with absolute clarity she was in danger. Not just her reputation or her finances, her life. Ananya was about to discover that her secret wasn't as safe as she thought. What happened next would involve someone who'd been watching from the shadows all along. This story is difficult to hear, but it's important. If you're still with me, please take a moment to subscribe. It tells me that stories like Ananya's matter to you. Now, let's talk about Sheikha Nadia and the pregnancy test that would seal Ananya's fate. September 3rd, 2022 was a Saturday. Ananya had gone to a pharmacy across the city to buy prenatal vitamins, terrified of being recognized closer to home. She was gone for 3 hours. When she returned to the Marina apartment, she knew immediately something was wrong. The door was unlocked. She always locked it. Heart pounding, she pushed it open slowly. The lights were on. and sitting in the living room armchair, composed, elegant, terrifying, was a woman in designer abaya with her face uncovered. Even without introductions, Ananya recognized her from photos in society magazines. Sheikh Nadia bint called, Faisal's wife. "Sit down, Ananya," Nadia said calmly in perfect English. "We need to talk." Ananya's legs nearly gave out. She sat on the edge of the couch, the pharmacy bag still clutched in her trembling hands. Nadia's eyes flickered to the bag, then back to Ananya's face. "You can put that down. The prenatal vitamins I already know." Slowly, Ananya set the bag on the coffee table. Nadia leaned forward, and for the first time, Ananya saw what she held in her lap, the pregnancy test. The one Ananya had taken weeks ago and thrown in the bathroom trash, unable to part with the evidence of the life inside her. "I've known about you for months," Nadia said conversationally, as if discussing the weather. "The affair, the apartment, the money, I've had you followed, photographed, documented. My husband's indiscretions are nothing new. I've learned to tolerate them." She held up the pregnancy test. "But this is different." Ananya tried to speak, but her throat had closed. Nadia stood, walking to the window with the test still in her hand. "Let me tell you what's going to happen. You will terminate this pregnancy. Then you will leave Dubai. I've already prepared the paperwork to cancel your visa. You will never contact my husband again. You will never speak of this to anyone. And in return, I will not destroy you." "I love him," Ananya whispered, tears streaming down her face. Nadia's laugh was sharp and bitter. "Love, you stupid girl, you were a toy, a distraction. Do you think you're the first? Do you think you'll be the last?" She turned, her eyes blazing. "My husband has been with dozens of women like you. Poor, desperate, willing to believe his lies because he throws money at you. You actually thought he would leave his family for you." Each word was designed to wound, and each one hit its target. "He told you that you were special, didn't he?" Nadia continued. "That his wife didn't understand him, that he was lonely." She laughed again. "Those are his lines. I've heard him practice them on phone calls while I'm in the next room." Ananya felt like she was drowning. "Here's what you need to understand," Nadia said, her voice dropping to something cold and dangerous. "I don't care about you. I don't care about your feelings or your little love story. I care about my family's reputation, my children's futures, and maintaining the order of my life. You are a threat to all of that." She walked back and stood directly in front of Ananya. "If you refuse to do what I'm telling you, I will destroy your family, not you your family. Your father, Rajesh Kapoor, receives a disability pension. I will have it investigated for fraud. I will ensure he loses it. Your mother, Mira, works on an employment visa. I will have it revoked. She'll be deported. Your brother Arjun at medical school, such a bright future. I will make one call and he will be expelled for academic dishonesty. I have the connections to make it stick." She pulled out her phone and showed Ananya photos. Her family's apartment building in Pune, her father sitting outside, her mother at the market, Arjun leaving the medical college. "I know where they live," Nadia said quietly. "I know where they work, where they study, where they shop, and I can make all of it disappear with a single phone call." Ananya's sobs were choking her now. "Please, please don't hurt them. This isn't their fault." "Then do exactly as I say. You have 48 hours to schedule the procedure. I'll know if you try to contact Faisal. I'm monitoring his communications. After it's done, you'll leave Dubai within 1 week. If you comply, I'll even give you 50,000 dirhams. Enough to keep sending money home for a few months while you figure out what lie you're going to tell them." She walked to the door, then paused. "My husband is weak and sentimental. That's why I'm handling this. Don't mistake my calm for mercy. If you cross me, I will ruin everyone you love. Do we understand each other?" Ananya couldn't speak. She just nodded, her whole body shaking. Nadia left, taking the pregnancy test with her. Over the next 2 days, Ananya tried everything to reach Faisal. She called his phone, it went straight to voicemail. She went to his office building, security wouldn't let her up. She tried to contact his assistant, her calls were blocked. He had abandoned her completely. Either willingly or at Nadia's command, it didn't matter which. The result was the same. Ananya was utterly alone. She couldn't have the abortion. It violated everything she believed, every value her grandmother had instilled in her. But she also couldn't let her family be destroyed. The images of her father losing his pension, her mother deported, Arjun expelled, they haunted her every waking moment. On September 8th, she made a plan. She would go home to India. She would have the baby secretly, maybe in a different city where no one knew her. She would give the baby up for adoption to a good family. Then she would return to Pune and restart her life, carrying the secret forever. It was a terrible plan, full of holes and impossible logistics, but it was all she had. She booked a flight for September 10th and began packing. That evening her phone rang. Faisal. She answered immediately. "Please, I just need to talk to you." "I heard Nadia visited you." His voice was flat, businesslike. "She threatened my family. She knows everything." "You should have just taken the money, Ananya. You should have listened to me." The coldness in his voice was devastating. This wasn't the man who'd held her, who'd called her special, who'd kissed her forehead while she slept. "I'm leaving," she said, her voice breaking. "I booked a flight for the 10th. I'm going home. I won't bother you. I won't tell anyone. I just want to disappear." Silence on the line. "Did you ever care about me at all?" she whispered. "Or was it all a lie?" More silence. Then, "I need to know you're not going to cause problems, that you understand the situation." "I understand. I'm nobody. You're everything. I get it." "Good, that's good." A pause. "I don't want this to end badly, Ananya. I did care for you in my own way." In my own way, the ultimate coward's excuse. "Goodbye, Faisal." She hung up. September 9th, 2022 at 10:00 p.m., Ananya received a text message. "Come to the yacht, Marina Pier 7. I want to see you one more time before you leave to say goodbye properly. And I have money for your family. Please come. F." Ananya stared at the message. Every instinct screamed danger. But the mention of money for her family, made her hesitate. Her former roommate Priya had come to help her pack, having reconnected after Ananya reached out in desperation. Priya read the message over her shoulder. "Don't go," Priya said firmly. "Please, this feels wrong. Why would he want to meet now after ignoring you for weeks?" "He said he has money for my family." "It's a trap, Ananya. I can feel it." But Ananya was thinking about her father's medications, her mother's rent, Arjun's tuition for next semester. If Faisal was offering money out of guilt, she had to take it. Her family needed it. "I'll be careful," she promised. "I'll go get the money and leave immediately. I'll text you every 30 minutes. If you don't hear from me, call the police." Priya grabbed her arm. "Don't do this." But Ananya had already decided. She left the apartment at 11:00 p.m. and took a taxi to the marina. Pier 7 was quiet, most yachts dark except for their mooring lights. But one vessel, a massive luxury yacht named Desert Rose, was lit up, its deck glowing. Ananya walked up the gangway, her heart hammering. Faisal was there, standing on the deck with two men she vaguely recognized as his security team. Ahmed and Rashid, both large Emirati men who'd sometimes accompanied him. "Come aboard," Faisal said. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Ananya stepped onto the yacht. Immediately, something felt wrong. The atmosphere was tense, the men's faces blank and professional. "Let's go inside," Faisal said, gesturing to the main cabin. "More private." They entered the luxurious interior, leather couches, teak floors, a bar along one wall. Faisal poured himself a drink. "Would you like something? Wine, juice?" "Just water, please." He handed her a bottle of water and a glass of juice. "Here, you must be tired." She sipped the juice. It tasted slightly bitter, but she thought nothing of it. They sat in awkward silence. Faisal kept glancing at his watch. "You said you had money for me?" Ananya finally asked. "Yes, it's below deck, in the safe." 5 minutes later, dizziness hit her like a wave. The room tilted. Her limbs felt heavy, uncooperative. "Something's wrong," she mumbled, trying to stand. Her legs gave out. Faisal caught her, but not gently. He lowered her back to the couch with cold efficiency. "It's just something to help you relax." Terror cut through the fog. "What did you give me?" "It's better this way, trust me." She tried to scream, but her voice came out as a weak whimper. The drug, whatever it was pulling her under. The last thing she saw before darkness claimed her was Faisal's face, expressionless and remote, as he nodded to his security team. Ananya woke to darkness and the smell of salt water. Her hands were bound behind her back with plastic zip ties that cut into her wrists. She was in a cabin below deck, the yacht's engines rumbling beneath her. The door opened. Faisal stood silhouetted against the light from the corridor. "Why?" Ananya's voice was hoarse, her throat raw. "I was leaving. I wasn't going to tell anyone." "I can't take that risk." He stepped into the cabin but didn't come close. "My wife knows everything. She has evidence, photos, bank records. The only reason she hasn't destroyed me is because I'm handling this. You're the loose end, Ananya, the one thing that could unravel everything." "I'm a person," she sobbed. "Your child is inside me." His jaw tightened, the first sign of emotion. "I never wanted this. You should have just listened. You should have done what I asked." "Please, please, I'll disappear. I'll go to a different country. I'll never contact you." "You're a liability I can't afford. My family, my reputation, my children's futures, all of it is more important than—" He trailed off, unable or unwilling to finish. "Than me, than our baby." "I loved you," Ananya whispered. Faisal looked away. "I'm sorry, I truly am." He left. Moments later, Ahmed and Rashid entered. Ananya screamed, fought, begged. But they were professionals, and she was a small woman, drugged and restrained. It was over in minutes. Strangulation with a rope, clinical, efficient. Ananya's last thoughts were of her mother's face on their Sunday video calls, of Arjun laughing at her jokes, of the baby she would never hold. At approximately 2:30 a.m. on September 10, 2022, Ananya Kapoor was murdered in the cabin of the Desert Rose, 15 miles offshore in the Arabian Gulf. Her body was wrapped in construction chains and dropped overboard. The yacht returned to the marina at 4:00 a.m. Ahmed and Rashid cleaned every surface with industrial bleach. By dawn, there was no trace that Ananya had ever been aboard. Faisal returned to his Palm Jumeirah penthouse, showered, and slipped into bed beside his sleeping wife. When his daughter woke him a few hours later, jumping on the bed and asking him to make pancakes, he smiled and got up as if it were any other day. On September 12th, Priya filed a missing persons report with Dubai police. Ananya had never texted her from the yacht as promised. Her phone went straight to voicemail. The marina apartment was empty, Ananya's packed suitcase still sitting by the door. The Indian consulate contacted Ananya's family. Mira Kapoor's screams when she received the call could be heard throughout their apartment building. Dubai police treated it as a low-priority case initially. Another missing expatriate worker probably fled the country illegally to avoid debt. But Priya insisted something was wrong, that Ananya had been meeting someone the night she disappeared. On September 20th, a fishing crew found a body tangled in their nets. Advanced decomposition made visual identification impossible, but dental records confirmed it was Ananya Kapoor. The autopsy revealed cause of death, strangulation. She had been approximately 8 weeks pregnant. The case was reclassified as homicide. Detective Captain Ibrahim Al-Zaruni took over the investigation. He reviewed Ananya's phone records, which led to the marina apartment. Security footage from the building showed Sheikh Faisal entering and leaving multiple times over several months. More footage from the marina itself showed Ananya entering Pier 7 on September 9th at 11:28 p.m. She never left on foot, but at 4:07 a.m., the yacht Desert Rose, registered to Al Rashid Properties, returned to dock. Captain al-Zaruni requested to interview Sheikh Faisal. He was stonewalled by expensive lawyers who cited family connections and claimed harassment. The investigation hit a wall of wealth and influence. In October, Sheikha Nadia learned the truth, not from the police or her husband, but from her own investigator who'd continued surveillance. She knew Faisal had met Ananya on the yacht. She knew the girl's body had been found. She put the pieces together quickly. Her husband wasn't just unfaithful, he was a murderer, and his recklessness had put their entire family at risk. Nadia made a decision, not from any sense of justice for Ananya. She barely thought of the dead girl as human, but from cold, calculated self-preservation. If Faisal was arrested publicly, the scandal would destroy them all. But if she controlled the narrative, she could emerge as the wronged wife who exposed a killer. She could protect her children and her standing. On October 28th, an anonymous package arrived at Dubai police headquarters addressed to Captain al-Zaruni. Inside was a comprehensive file. 6 months of surveillance photos showing Faisal and Ananya. Bank transfer records documenting payments totaling 148,000 dirhams. A copy of the pregnancy test, along with DNA analysis proving Faisal's paternity. Security footage from the marina showing Ananya boarding the yacht. Yacht maintenance records showing emergency cleaning ordered September 10th. A typed note, sometimes justice requires a wife's betrayal. The evidence was overwhelming and meticulously organized. On November 3, 2022, Sheikh Faisal bin Omar al-Rashid was arrested quietly at his office. His security team members, Ahmed and Rashid, were arrested simultaneously. Both men confessed within hours in exchange for reduced sentences. They provided detailed accounts of the drugging, the murder, the disposal of the body. Faisal had ordered it. They had executed it. The trial began in March 2023. Despite his lawyer's best efforts, Faisal couldn't overcome the evidence. Ahmed and Rashid testified against him, describing the murder in clinical detail. The prosecution presented phone records, financial documents, and security footage. Sheikha Nadia testified, the moment that broke the case wide open. She confirmed the affair, the pregnancy, her own confrontation with Ananya. She described Faisal's pattern of affairs, his sense of entitlement, his belief that his wealth placed him above consequences. Her testimony was devastating, delivered with cold precision. She positioned herself as the dutiful wife pushed to exposure by her husband's depravity. Public sentiment was unanimously against Faisal. Social media erupted with hashtags, Justice for Ananya. Indian and Filipino communities in the UAE, tired of seeing their women victimized, protested outside the courthouse. On April 19, 2023, the verdict came, guilty of premeditated murder. The sentence, 25 years in prison. The UAE rarely executes its own citizens, especially those with family connections, but the public outcry ensured Faisal wouldn't escape punishment entirely. Ahmed and Rashid each received 15-year sentences as accomplices. Faisal's assets were frozen. His business empire collapsed. His children, humiliated and traumatized, were removed from their prestigious schools. His family name became synonymous with predatory violence. In Pune, Ananya's family struggled to survive the aftermath. Rajesh Kapoor suffered a fatal heart attack 3 weeks after learning his daughter had been murdered, unable to withstand the shock and grief. Arjun withdrew from medical school, unable to concentrate or afford tuition without Ananya's financial support. He took a job at a call center, crudely the same industry that had taken his sister to Dubai. Mira Kapoor received 500,000 dirhams in compensation from the UAE government's Victim Assistance Fund. It was more money than she'd ever seen, but it couldn't fill the void left by her daughter and husband's deaths. She returned to her village where she now lives with Arjun and his wife, helping raise their children. She keeps a photo of Ananya on the mantle, young, smiling, full of hope. Sometimes neighbors see her talking to the photograph, telling her daughter about family events, asking for advice as if Ananya were still alive. Sheikh Nadia divorced Faisal and retained full custody of their children. Through family connections and strategic public positioning as the woman who exposed her husband's crime, she maintained her social standing. She never gave interviews about the case, maintaining dignified silence. Behind closed doors, those in her social circle knew the truth. She'd sacrificed Faisal not for justice, but for survival. And in their world, that was respected. Ananya Kapoor's story is one of exploitation, desperation, and ultimately murder. If this story affected you, I ask that you take a moment to share it. Stories like this need to be told so that other young women in vulnerable positions know the warning signs, know the dangers. Please subscribe, share, and comment below with your thoughts. Your engagement ensures these voices are never forgotten. Ananya's case sent shockwaves through Dubai's expatriate communities and sparked conversations that extended far beyond the UAE. It highlighted the systemic vulnerabilities faced by migrant workers, particularly women, who operate in foreign countries where class and nationality create dangerous power imbalances. In the wake of her murder, several changes occurred. The Indian consulate in Dubai increased its outreach programs for young female workers, offering resources about exploitation and emergency contacts. NGOs focusing on migrant workers' rights launched campaigns about recognizing predatory behavior. Dubai police established a dedicated unit for crimes involving expatriate victims, ensuring cases wouldn't be dismissed due to nationality or class. Ananya's former colleagues at Global Connect Solutions established a memorial scholarship fund in her name for young Indian women pursuing education. The scholarship specifically targets women who had to interrupt their studies due to financial pressures, women like Ananya, who sacrificed their dreams to support their families. Her brother Arjun eventually returned to medical school, funded by this scholarship and community donations. He graduates next year and plans to specialize in public health, focusing on healthcare access for working-class families. He says he owes his sister not just his education, but his purpose. Ananya Kapoor came to Dubai with the same dreams as millions of other migrants: to work hard, send money home, lift her family out of poverty, and eventually return to build a life on her own terms. She was kind, intelligent, and devoted to her family. She made one critical mistake: trusting a man who saw her as disposable, a man whose wealth had convinced him that human lives were commodities he could buy and discard. She fell in love with someone who was never capable of loving her back, someone for whom she was nothing more than temporary entertainment. When that entertainment became inconvenient, he simply had her erased. Her murder exposed not just one man's monstrosity, but the broader systems that enable such violence. Extreme wealth inequality, legal frameworks that privilege the powerful, and cultural attitudes that devalue the lives of poor immigrant women. Ananya's voice was silenced, but her story endures. Rest in peace, Ananya Kapoor. You deserved so much better than the hand you were dealt. Your life mattered. Your dreams mattered. And today, through this story, you are remembered not as a victim, but as a young woman who loved her family, who worked tirelessly to give them a better life, and who deserved to live. If you or someone you know is in a dangerous relationship, please reach out for help. Resources are linked in the description below. Domestic violence hotlines, expatriate worker assistance programs, and legal aid organizations are available worldwide. You are not alone. There is help. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to ensure stories like Ananya's continue to be told. Share this video to raise awareness. And remember, behind every true crime story is a real person whose life was stolen. They deserve to be more than headlines. They deserve to be remembered.